Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Let's Pick This Up Next Week, where you get to hear from myself. I'm Dee, and I'm joined by DJ, where we are going to talk about all things, anything that comes to mind. And you'll get to hear insights from two therapists who just happen to be your new best friends. So, hi, welcome. DJ, I haven't seen you in a hot minute.
It's been some time. Yeah, I was gallivanting around United Kingdom and Europe, because they're separate
They're
now.
separate.
Yeah.
Wait, but isn't no, but it's still the continent of Europe, right?
I mean, it is, but like,
Wait a second. There's not 8 continents
right?
now, right?
Anybody in United Kingdom does not want to be called Europeans. So they're like British or Scottish.
How many I just like threw myself. There's 7 continents, right? One,
The
2, 3,
continents?
4, 5, 6. There's
I
7.
mean,
Yeah, there's 7.
you're
I
asking me some geography stuff.
There's
Like it was
7.
hard, it was hard enough for me to like I was shocked that Switzerland is in between France and Italy. Like it has no business being there, I think, but that's where it's at.
Where did you think it was?
I don't know, somewhere like I don't know, by Antarctica.
What?
You think
Tell
of
me tell me
snow and you
this.
think of Switzerland, right?
Yeah, there is like the Swiss Alps, right?
Yeah, the
Like
Swiss
that's
Alps. I know, but I think of only
yeah.
snow. So, but it was actually quite warm in
Mm,
Switzerland and sunny and
that's fair.
beautiful. Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really really nice.
Well, I'm glad that you're back stateside.
Hmm.
Good to see your face. You missed all of June pretty much because you were gone
I
for a hot minute.
did. I did, but we're talking about Pride today, and it was nice to see that every country I was in that part of the world, on the train, wherever I was, I saw Pride stuff everywhere. So
Really?
so that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Did it seem as hotly debated as it is here?
I mean, I wasn't in crowds of like or hanging out with
Mm.
people who may be debating that stuff, I was there as a tourist. So I didn't hear any debate. I didn't see people, seem to be upset about all the advertising on the trains and everything. So, but World Pride is in London in 2025. So there was
Hmm.
lots of advertising, about that. I think London.
Got you.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's London. I'm like, is it
Well,
Paris?
some
I was in France too. I don't know. All the countries they blend
you ever.
together.
Well, well, when you can cover all of the countries like in the same amount of time it would take you to go like the entire United States, like
Yeah.
it's it's wild how closer together things are there.
Yeah, they are, but not as close. Like I was, I was a little bit shocked that it was 800 miles between London and Rome.
Yeah,
We had to
I
we had to take a ferry too from London to Paris.
yeah.
Yeah,
O-
right.
Okay, okay. I'm like that's covered in like World War II history, I'm
You
pretty
know
sure.
what? Here's the thing is that like
Isn't that the whole
history's
thing?
not my favorite thing. Like we took a walking tour of the Edinburgh Castle and I was
Mhm.
like this would be great if the tour guide was saying things like here's the castle, it has 20 rooms, like that kind of stuff. Like all the history, I'll read about it sometime. Like I don't
You're
want to
not
hear you
going
talk about
to.
it. No, yeah.
You're not going to read about it. No.
Geography and history. I happened to miss geography in my school age years because I moved around so much when I was a kid. And I just so happened that I never got that unit taught anywhere.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I have a I have a very distinct memory of taught like I transferred schools my sophomore year and I remember
Mm-hmm.
the table of people I was at, this one girl was like talking about how like, she really hates she meant to say geography, but she
Mm-hmm.
said geology.
Oh,
And she's
yeah.
like, I just don't understand. Like, I'm just not good at like geology. And I'm like, well, it's geography, right? Because like that's geology's rocks.
Right.
And she's like,
Ironically, I did take geology.
oh my God. But she's like, that's probably why I'm failing.
Right.
Like that
That's
probably
a
isn't
big
helping
that's a big difference. Yeah.
a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
that's good to see. I feel like here, so I didn't do a whole lot of pride stuff. I did
Mm-hmm.
go. check out the Cleveland Guardians,
Oh
and they have a
yeah.
Pride night.
You sent me
Yeah,
a picture from there.
I did. They like
Mm-hmm.
did it. They get more stuff every year, which was pretty cool because we went. It's been a couple years since we went. Um, I think I might have went last year. I did go last year. I lied. It was cool last year. Got a little flag and all that kind of stuff. This year I got an invite because I bought like the special like Pride package. You need the Pride package to get the flag, and I'm like, well, obviously I want the flag.
Right.
Um, and I got an invite to go to this like a munch beforehand, like a everyone coming like networking event or whatever, and they actually had a previous Cleveland then Indians pitcher who came out as gay when he announced his engagement to his now husband a couple years after he
Really?
stopped playing. Yeah, I was like, I literally Googled him because I'm like, I don't remember who this person is. Like, he was, a pitcher when I kind of took a break on being into baseball for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so cool. And he just like talked about like, his teammates knew, but like he just wasn't public about it because it was still a big thing. And like,
Mm.
this was 10 years ago. That's not
Right.
that long
Yeah.
ago.
What picture was
So
it?
I knew you
You
were
don't
gonna ask me
remember?
that. And I feel like his first name is Tim. I had this autograph is in this closet over here because I'm
Oh no.
temporarily using a different room. So it's in
You
there.
put his autograph in the closet, and he like just came out of the closet. Poor Tim. Poor Tim pitcher.
Poor Tim the pitcher. I put him right back in the closet.
You did. Ah, it's
Ugh.
horrible.
But they had all these cool
Mhm.
things. I got a frisbee that said "Sounds gay, I'm in." Super
Oh,
cute.
nice. Nice.
Yeah, and they always have like little. So like anyway, so like doing like the little meet and greet thing was pretty fun. I didn't meet or greet anybody, but it was
Oh,
cool like
uh-huh.
to be there and get free stuff. And then they always have like different like tables set up at different areas, and like there was even a place that you could literally write letters to queer kids who were just like looking for support for somebody. And so,
Nice.
like, literally, they just had like blank greeting cards, and you just wrote your letter, you threw it in, and they're like, "Yep, we're gonna get this to like, a kid who needs it." I'm like, that's amazing. That was really
That
cool.
is. That's
Yeah,
really cool. Hmm.
but I certainly noticed the amount of corporate sponsorship of
Oh,
things.
is that something that
Yeah.
that's a hot topic? Hang
Mm-hmm.
on one second, D. We have to pause because I just remembered I have frozen chicken that I need to put in the freezer.
Oh my God, go put your frozen chicken in the freezer. I'm gonna get the autograph out of the closet so I know who this
Okay.
is. Well, apologize for the interruption. DJ forgot they had Instacart just chilling, trying to get salmonella with some roast chicken.
That's right.
Just,
That's right.
um, but I took that opportunity to go into the closet and dig out some of the things that I got. First off, his name was TJ. Thanks,
Oh,
TJ
okay.
House. So,
Nice.
TJ House, lovely, lovely
Nice.
person. Anyway, but speaking of corporate sponsorship, so this is like one of the things that we got,
Oh,
right?
that
This is
is it.
great,
Okay.
great viewing for a podcast, by the way, if you're listening to audio only, but it says "Sounds
Mm.
gay, I'm in." Um, and then, of course, little koozie with the Pride C for Cleveland gum. We got
Oh,
some
really? Some rainbow
some
gum.
gum. I think it's just regular gum, but like
Mm. Rainbow packaged gum.
but on it has rainbow package. It's from the LGBT and Allied Chamber of Commerce. But also, it was hot as crap. So we got little
Nice.
fans, little Cleveland Clinic ad up in here. But
Nice.
so yeah,
Lots of pride
what
swag.
what do you think about what do you think about
Oh,
Pride swag,
corporate
corporate
sponsorship.
sponsorship?
So, I know like here in Portland, the most of the people in the queer community in Portland are very anti corporate pride and corporate sponsorship and all that kind of thing. And like I can understand the point, right? The point of that, like, are they doing it for marketing and that kind of stuff? And yes, and how riding on the coattails of queer people for marketing and everything isn't great. I understand that, but also I came from a time. I feel so old in saying this. Like I came from a time when like like Pride wasn't widely recognized. 20 something years ago when I came out, there was still so much like backlash from just having Pride or going to Pride and that kind of stuff. So I like the mainstream acceptance of Pride. I like all the marketing from mainstream businesses. I like that it's not all just like queer people and queer businesses. So I think for the exposure and to show that there's so much more representation and acceptance, I like it for those reasons. I mean, I can be anti-capitalist for all the reasons that I am as well, but also I still live in a capitalist society, right? So I think that like being from in my opinion for living in the society that we live in, I think that having the representation and exposure is better than not.
I would agree. I think that it really depends what do they do the other 11 months out of the year, right?
Right.
So it's like it's those people who swoop in and are, those companies that swoop in and they're really just rainbow washing stuff.
Mm.
Which is like dang it, sometimes it's a cute shirt and I really want it and it happens because it's rainbow and it's cool, or it's, in the pan flag and I'm stoked about it. I want it. And sometimes I'm mad because I'm like, ugh, this feeds the corporate machine. I tend to go, especially like when I buy like LGBTQ shirts, this is not
Mm-hmm.
me, like whatever, but like, go to Etsy or something like that. But at the same time, there's not that visibility through channels like
Right.
that. So I mean, I think that it just matters to do the rest of the year. But I think
Right.
this year, like, there's been a huge step back. Like, I think last year was a very controversial time to be a company that supported the queer community. And
Mm-hmm.
this year, it's quiet this year. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even like Nike as a whole thing. Uh, I actually my watch band was actually Nike's Be True. I think it's Be True from last year,
Mm-hmm.
where they celebrate like queer athletes. And this year they didn't have a line that came out,
Oh yeah.
but they do a lot of stuff for the queer community. Like
Right.
they do a lot of other things, but it's just not visible this year. And it's like
Right.
you're doing the work, and that's the most important part. But like
Right.
also, you're Nike. Like, come on, like
Right.
you have a
Yeah,
leg to
because
stand on, go stand on it.
right, because last year was all the pushback from Budweiser or Bud Light, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which that was really fun to watch. And then people not realizing how like the economy works and how like companies are owned by parent companies. And
Mm-hmm.
like just buying another beer from the same parent company isn't really boycotting
Right.
anything, but
Right.
whatever.
Right. Right.
Who am I to
Yeah.
judge?
Yeah. Yeah. That was all like really sad to see last year, and also like I think like seeing people who are like I have family members who are queer and especially in a state like Ohio, and seeing like I have family members that are queer and I love them and whatever, but like to see which side they were on and like that boycott and everything
Hmm.
was like I think super disheartening for a lot of families.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I agree. I think it really showed a lot of people's true colors or true thoughts about
Mhm.
things. It is sad when something like this becomes divisive, like that's
Mhm.
what kills me. And so there's some part of me that's like, okay, like, let's make it more quiet. So it is something that isn't, because everything, you can put anything out there and it's
Mhm.
divisive. Even things that a lot of people support, for some reason, divisive. And I'm like, ooh, like if Pride was just like a little quieter, would it be less divisive? And then it's like, that's not the point of Pride. The first Pride
Right.
was a riot. Why stop
Right.
there? Like,
Right. Right. Right, and like I said, I do remember when like it was a lot quieter. I mean, I was happy that a pride existed, but it wasn't as gay people still weren't as widely as accepted.
mhm,
Yes, we do still have a long way to go, but like I think a lot of the focus now is sadly on like transgender rights,
mhm.
because like oh yeah, you can be gay, just don't be trans.
Yep.
Hmm.
Or kids don't know if they're trans. So it's
Right,
like,
yeah.
what? I've had that talk with a lot of people because it's the idea of like, oh, these these children, they don't know. And it's like, but when did you know?
Right.
Right? Like, when
Mhm.
did you know that you felt this way about yourself?
Right.
Um, and I just think it comes with visibility. So like,
Mhm.
so for my own experience of like recognizing like my own queerness and like who I am,
Mhm.
for a long time, I received a lot of negative messages about like bisexual women. And so
Mhm.
I was like,
Yeah.
well, that's not me, right? My whole life is like, oh, that's not me, because that's what it means to be a bisexual woman. And then it, for some reason, hearing pansexual
Mhm.
clicked different for me. And not that I think that ultimately, of the Venn diagram that is pansexuality and bisexuality, they overlap completely. Like, let's just
Right.
put it that way.
Right. Right.
But for some reason, because the community was out there and was visible, this word finally struck, and it's like, okay, like
Mhm.
that feels that feels right, because it's never felt like part of me for a very long time.
Right. Right.
So that was really cool. Like, but that came from visibility, and I just think of how many
Right.
people never address that part of themselves because there wasn't visibility.
Right. No, it is like totally true. I mean, people who don't address that part of themselves. And also like you need to have visibility and representation so you can be like, "Oh yeah, that's me." Because
Hmm.
without that, what do if the exposure's not out there, you may not know it's a thing that exists.
Hmm.
Also, I think like if we were all honest and real, right? And if we didn't go on like all the societal constraints that have been given to us, like, for generations after generation after generation, like most people, I think would be pansexual.
Probably.
Because realistically, the number percentage of people that are like 100%, straight is like low. But I mean, it's because people are like, this is the idea set is on me. This is what is normal, and this is what is like, you know, I'm supposed to be because
Hmm.
that's what my beliefs are.
It's always so strange to me when, like, I'm sure you've seen those things that are like, if you just like hide a portion of people's faces, and like it's usually like the jaw area, and
Mm-hmm.
to look at somebody, like, I think most people could look at it and judge whether or not that person in that picture is attractive or beautiful.
Mm.
But then you put a little bit more features there, and then it becomes, oh wait, that's a guy, never mind, can't be
Right.
attracted. It's like,
Right.
but 2 seconds ago you're like, that person has the prettiest eyes, right? Like,
Right.
why do we
Right.
prevent ourselves from the joy that is enjoying
Right.
others?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, because society says that it's supposed to be one certain way.
Do you think part of, because I sometimes when I start thinking this line of thought, I'm like, the whole world dissolves when you start thinking of like, society's made up, man. Like the
Yeah, it's
whole thing.
totally made up. Yeah. I
But
mean,
then
I've.
like my brain melts and I'm like, I
Mm,
can't process this. So let me go back to
mm-mm.
my societal norms because I need something.
Really? Yeah. I'm all about like I keep telling everyone that the first book I'm gonna write is called Society Can Suck the Big One. Because like the idea that we need to follow some type of societal norms or be accepted by society is really bullshit. Because really all we need is community. And community is the people that you have around you because they're of like-mindedness instead of like searching for acceptance in a whole of society with people that you may not belong with, you create your community of people who you already fit in with. And once I started doing long term therapy and noticing more and more, because I worked in like, substance abuse treatment for a long time, IOP, inpatient. The longest I worked with somebody was like 90 days, and our focus is on getting them sober or clean, right? So now I'm like long term
Ugh, don't
therapy. I've
say
been
clean. That'll be
what
my
what do what do you
soapbox.
what is it? What is it?
Sober.
Just
Sober.
sober
Because
for everything. I always like cringe at like
listen,
sober for anything that's not alcohol.
people can choose their own terms, right? I will never tell. I mean, and when I said it there, it's talking to as a friend and practitioner, not like,
Right.
but I hate like when the people I work with will say, "Oh yeah, this person's clean," or that drug test is dirty. I'm like,
Oh, right.
"Bleh."
Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
hear you
no,
that I hear you
you're
that
making a
way. Yeah.
personal judgment when you say clean or
Right.
dirty. But anyways,
Right. I
so
hear you
sober
that
for
way.
90
I don't think
days.
I think sober as in like sober alcohol clean always means drugs to me. I don't know why that's the way that my brain does it, but not clean versus dirty.
That's
Um
fair. Okay.
anyway.
Sorry.
So it's okay. So but working long term with people and with trauma that's outside of like, what you do and like a 90-day, working with somebody is to see like how much trauma comes from society, and like the more and more and more that I see that, the more and more and more that I'm like, this is such bullshit. Because the idea, people really truly believe that they have to go and fit in places where they have no business being there. Because like those are not
Mm.
your people. And instead of banging your head against the wall trying to fit in with a bunch of people that aren't your people, go find your people. That's what community is, and that's what really, what's really the important thing. That's going to be my book. I'm
I
telling you, society can suck the big one because I hate it.
I love that. I'll definitely be a. Are you gonna make an Audible though? I'm not really into sitting and reading
Yeah, maybe
much. I
I'll
don't have
make an
much time.
audible. Yeah, maybe I'll
Make an
have some.
Audible for me.
Maybe I'll
Yeah,
have some like famous person read it for me.
you should.
I don't want to. I don't want to
But
read it out loud either. I'll get tired.
but I think, but what I think you're hitting on too is like why. So the rates of, and I don't mean to get in the diatribe of like what we're talking about in a couple weeks because we're going to be speaking at a conference
Mm-hmm.
um, about a big focus of it is addiction, and our session talks about the intersectionality of being a part of the queer community and all of that that comes with it, the mental health,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. There's a huge overlap there for a lot of different reasons, but we see especially queer youth, like uh, trans and non hetero kids, so queer kids,
Mm-hmm.
are twice as likely to seriously contemplate suicide than their straight and cisgender peers. That
Mm-hmm.
tells us something. Like that
Mm-hmm.
tells us because at that point in their life, you can't choose your community.
That's the
Like
thing. And
you really can't.
yep. And that's the thing that I'm like, the way that we have set up school systems and all of that, like we're doing our society all wrong. That's really the only time that you don't have a choice is when you're a
Well,
kid and forced to go to a school just because that you live nearby to a building with other people who live nearby to a building. Like it's all messed up. It shouldn't be that way.
I don't know how to do it better is the problem. I don't think anyone
Well,
knows how to do it better.
there are some instances of schools that are done better, like art schools,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all the kids who like
Mm-hmm.
art, they go to those schools, or all the kids that like, like that kind of stuff. There are schools that are charter schools that are based on like music or art or things that kids have interest in or things that kids identify with
Mm-hmm.
rather than like here's a public school, come to the school, this is the way that you're supposed to be. You got to try and fit in because otherwise kids are going to make fun of you. It's so bad.
Yeah, kids are awful.
Hmm.
I I
Well,
laughed there for
parents
a
are
second
awful
because I'm.
because like if
That's
those
fair.
messages have to come from the grown-ups. The kids didn't invent it.
Don't get me on my soapbox about
Hmm.
participation trophies because it's who was the one
Right.
giving them anyway.
Right.
Um, but I laughed there for a moment because I think about like again, we for some reason as society don't trust kids to tell us what they think about their own personhood and their
Right.
own sexuality or romantic feelings they may be having, but yet we expect them to pick their entire life career
Right.
at even younger ages, like to
Right.
be
Yeah.
in high school and already be looking at like, okay, so where you're like, and even you saying like, oh, go to art school, go to this school, amazing, great. And we allow kids that freedom, but we don't often
Right.
allow them the same freedom of expression.
No, and it's
Yeah.
because I think so much of it too comes from like, well, I didn't get to do that when I was a kid. And so like if I didn't have the freedom to be able to do that, why should these kids? And because they probably don't know anyway. Because if I thought something when I was a kid, someone might have told me like you don't know. And so we just keep
Hmm.
perpetuating those same ideas.
Which sucks because
It does suck.
we we should walk so the next generation can run.
Right, right. I think that like
Um,
generations, generationally we are improving. Like when I look at like Gen Z versus like millennials or Gen X, You definitely see changes, and we start talking about like, oh, the people who want to talk about queer kids, right, being indoctrinated or whatever. It's because the generations behind us are more accepting, and because there is more representation that we see higher percentages of queer people in these populations, but it's not because again that there's more queer people. It's because of the fact that like people are more comfortable being honest with themselves and identifying in a way that feels that
Mm-hmm.
they're safe to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah, the amount of people who self-describe as being something other than straight and cisgender
Mm-hmm.
grows exponentially. Exponentially. Wow, that was
Mm-hmm.
some real it has grown exponentially generation to generation. I think it's like, what is it, 1 in 5, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Gen Z report self-identify as being something other than trans or something other than cis and straight,
Mm-hmm. Right.
which it just grows every generation.
Right, right. And again, I think because at the core of humanity, we're not straight people, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have a body part that should tell us everything about our lives, right? Like,
Like you said, I mean, it's all made up, and we can see like who it serves, the beliefs that we were given, and the way that society was formed, like
mhm.
who benefits most from that.
Yeah, and it's got these unfortunate ripple effects, right? I
Hmm.
mean, like thinking about uh the lack of visibility and the lack of just acceptance, because even if it's like not, I mean, you mentioned like, when kids are younger, that's the only time they really can't pick their community. But what if they're uh the required community, for lack of a better term, like, their parents or their families and things like that aren't accepting of who they are.
Hmm.
Like, when you get older, it becomes easier to say, okay, mom, dad, whomever, like, it doesn't matter what you think because I have other people in my life who support
Right.
me. But as,
And right. And as an
young ones, they don't have that.
right. And also some people when they're older can't. Some people when they're older, some people get older and
Yeah.
they're like, you know what? It's sad. This is my family. And I wish they were more accepting and loving and whatever, but like I'm gonna make my own family. But some people
Mm-hmm.
never have the resources, even maybe like their only resources they have keeps them tied to their family. The beliefs that are so ingrained in them keep them tied to their family. Did you see Red, White, and Royal Blue?
What is that?
So it was a queer novel that was made into a
Mm.
movie, I think, on Hulu, and it's about like the son of a female president. Clearly, like their family's like liberal and that kind of stuff, but then who falls in love with like British royalty, um and like the tradition of family beliefs that the royal son had, and so afraid that like I can't tell my family because like generations and generations and generations this is what we do, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
it may be harder for somebody like that to be like, I choose me and my happiness and my authenticity over my family. But sometimes that choice can be made, and sometimes people have enough autonomy to be able to be like, I'll create my own community. But sometimes people
Yeah.
can't. Mhm.
That sounds like an interesting. You said it was a book first and then made into a Hulu movie.
I think it's Hulu. I'm pretty
Well,
sure
I
it
don't
was
know.
Hulu. Yeah, I mean, I have all the streaming services, so I don't always keep track correctly, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's Hulu. It came out 2023, I think.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Can we just like go back to cable? Honestly, like I'm so sick of all these streaming services. Um,
I don't know. We have a lot more diversity with not just cable.
this is where I'm not a fan of diversity. I want to
Oh
pay
yeah.
one bill for the
Right? It
service
was
of
so it
watching
was
things on the
so
television.
it was so expensive.
What do you, speaking of like media and that kind of stuff too, is like this comes to mind of just like I think about like queer baiting of just like,
Mm,
oh, like get it. But so here's the thing. because I have thoughts about it. But again, I'll go back to this Guardians game because it's been like the only Pride thing I
Mm.
went to in
Oh
June.
yeah.
Because by the way, the city that you and I went to their Pride
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it this year
What,
for
Sandusky?
unknown reasons. I don't know. I don't
Really?
know if there was like a new group who did like a little parade
Mm-hmm.
thing, but I had to miss it unfortunately. But I don't know. It wasn't like it was in years past.
Really?
I don't know if it has to do with anything like small town stuff or
Mm-hmm.
just
That's sad
logistically.
because they did put it
Yeah.
together a pretty good Pride.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
was just
cool.
talking about it the other day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I think this one was like a littler thing, littler, just a
Oh yeah.
smaller thing. But
That's
um,
unfortunate.
yeah. But
Portland.
the
Oh, go ahead.
Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Go
no.
ahead.
What about Portland?
Oh, Portland Pride. So last year they moved it to July. Like San Diego has their Pride
Mm-hmm.
in July too. So like it's coming up July 20th. So not
Mm-hmm.
in June at all. Palm Springs, also where I lived for several years, like they're not doing it in the summer either because like, everyone's skin would burn
Mm,
off. So they do theirs in like November, I think.
that's fair. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
some other like cities around here, like I think Cleveland's I think is in July.
Is it?
Toledo's is in August.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so people really
Yeah.
are
They're kind of just
moving. Cities are moving away from Pride Month.
I think it's just get it in where it fits and July is a
Yeah.
busy time.
Yeah.
Um but at the game, so how and you know how they do it because you were there, but like when they sell the Pride package tickets, because
Mhm.
you can go to the Pride night, get whatever regular ticket, that's fine. But if you like upgrade to the Pride package with a little promo code, you like get some freebies.
Right.
And so, but when you put that code in, you get seated in this area. So it's all the people around you
Mhm.
are the people who also bought the same package. So, like, I went with both my partners and we're just surrounded by all of the other people that came for Pride Night. And we ended up staying for fireworks. Long story short, they had like a little singing, like, oh, what side can sing better? Like, while we're waiting for like the fireworks to, be set up or whatever. And of course, when they were like doing this, the songs include I'm Coming Out, It's Raining Men. There was
Mhm.
a Gaga song every 15 minutes. And I'm like, listen, I am both offended and excited because I love these songs. So, of,
Why were
of
you
course, I
why
want
were
to,
you offended?
because it's like, seriously, like, it is the low hanging fruit of like,
Mm.
let's sing Lady Gaga.
Mhm.
But it's like, but I want to scream Bad Romance's lyrics at the top of my lungs, like, or Born This Way. And like,
Mhm.
you know, so there was a part of me that's like, dang, like, this is kind of like a little pandering, but
Mm.
also
I mean, it was a
our
Pride.
side, yeah, our side
Okay.
definitely won all of the songs that were popular
Nice.
in the queer
Nice.
community.
What about Taylor Swift's 19 or 2019 anthem?
Why do you continuously talk about Taylor Swift on this podcast? This
Are
is
we
the
not?
second time.
We're not
I
talking
don't know.
about.
I
We're not,
can't stand Taylor Swift. I really
really.
like I don't judge when other people are cuz cool
Hmm.
whatever, like that's
I'm not a
fine, but
Swiftie or
like
anything, but like, I like her
for
enough.
for me as a no, for me as a person, she's not really a feminist because she's not like it's only
Oh,
feminist
right.
when people attack her, but she does nothing for like the community in that way.
Mm.
She's just really good, like, and she's got really great PR people that ensure like some things are like swept under the rug or hidden or this or that. And it's like, okay, whatever. Like everybody does in Hollywood, sure. But it just irritates the crap out of me that like she's touted for being all of these things. And it's like, would a celebrity who like really loves their fans, would they really re-release all of their stuff and ask their fans to rebuy it all? So she's making royalties twice, but because then she'll own the rights to these new records. Who does that? Who
Well, I
does that?
mean, I think I mean, I'm not in the music business, but I do think that like, a lot of people were like it was smart of her to do that because like, what's his name's out of the music business by the way, Scooter, what's his name? Like he's been pretty much pushed out. But like, the
Mhm.
fact that he was kind of underhandedly like this is not your stuff. I think like some recording labels, like they know that like it's not gonna, they're
Mhm.
not gonna have the rights, but it feels like that was like kind of shadily done. I wasn't there. I don't know for sure,
Yeah,
but like that's the gist of what I have.
that's fair. And I also was not there, but
Uh-huh.
as a spectator to this sport, not a fan.
I mean,
Not a
I think the
fan.
moral of the story is you don't do business with anybody named Scooter.
That's a great business. That's
Mm.
business 101, I think.
Yeah.
Anybody who sounds like they got their name at like a frat party, not the
Right,
top of the list,
right,
man. Not the
right,
top of the
right.
list.
I think that's the moral of the story. Um, so yeah, so I haven't been to any Pride stuff yet, because I was traveling, but I did get to see, like I said, even in like Venice, I think I saw like, Pride window stickers, on the storefronts and stuff, which is pretty
Nice.
cool. Yeah. But it was cool to be there during Pride Month and see it representation all
Hmm.
over. Like I still have them in. I have like Pride ear no not they're earplugs but not earplugs but like plugs that go in like your earring holes. I always am like, what do you call
Oh,
them? Plugs.
plugs.
Yeah, but
Like
when I learn plugs, like I
for
think of like,
gauges.
right, yes, so I have my ears gauged, have
Gauge
plugs,
plugs.
and they're pride like rainbow. And I was concerned. I was like, I brought a whole bunch of my earrings, ear gauge plugs, and like they're not earrings because like I don't wear like hoops
Yeah,
or
that's fair.
anyway. So I thought I might like change them because I wasn't sure if I wanted to wear rainbow everywhere across like Europe and what it would be like. But it was, I mean, I saw representation, Pride stuff. Like I said, every single city we were in.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it is pretty
That's
awesome. I mean,
it's
I went
pretty
to
great.
I
And it,
went to ABBA Voyage, the ABBA show in London, and got a Pride shirt there, so that was really cool.
it's a great looking shirt for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, thanks.
I
Mhm.
dig it. I have a big I have a 12-foot skelly, like a skeleton in my front yard,
Oh yeah,
which is amazing.
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, and so he's got a like a button-up shirt that's got like the little flag on it, and then he's holding a big rainbow flag as well. Because like
Nice.
I don't know if I talked about it on the show or not, but like my pride flag was vandalized a couple years ago. That
Really?
um yeah, because I have like a flagpole that's like attached to my house. Um and I like left for work one day and I realized like, wait, the flag's not there. Like, what the hell happened? So I went back and I watched my cameras and I heard these guys coming up and saying, "Oh, that's it. That's the one right there."
Mm.
And they came up and they snapped the flagpole. It broke like the actual thing on my house and just like left, like
Oh wow.
just vandalized it. But of course, like we couldn't identify them and yada yada. So like there's more security cameras now.
Hmm.
Um, but I just remember thinking, like, man, like that just pisses me off because, like, I live in a small town, but I've never felt unwelcome or anything like that. It's just a small town.
Mhm.
Uh, but I've made it a point to just make my pride display bigger every year. um, and it was cool because I had new neighbors move in, and one of the things that they said is like, "Hey, we were worried about moving to the small town, but then we saw your flags, and we're
That's
like, okay,
cool.
cool." Like
Yeah.
we've got at least one neighbor who's you
Right.
know
It's always nice
uh
too. I like it when allies, show the representation of flags and stuff like their house too, because it makes it safer
mhm.
for
Mhm.
everyone else.
Yeah.
I do have a welcome, all are welcome sign, I think, on my front porch, but I'm always hesitate to like how much I want to put out in front of my house. But if
Mhm.
there's a lot of allies around me or other queer people, I'd be more apt. But I do have that, all are
Yeah.
welcome.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't care. Like
Hmm.
if that brings you joy is to do that,
Right. Yeah.
then I guess you live a sad, sad existence to come
Right.
and like vandalize someone's stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if that's what
Yeah.
they felt they had to do and they've just inspired me, like I said, to do bigger and better every year.
Right. Yeah. You
Maybe that's
know,
what I needed.
right. And the training that you and I do and we're getting ready to do again, and next in July. So some
Yeah,
point
in like
coming
2
up,
weeks.
right? Yeah, in a couple weeks. Um, it always blows my mind that in 2024 and when we did it before, that this is a training that we still have to do for other mental health professionals to be able to work with queer clients. But we always get so many questions, and I know I just presented, some of the material to my team that I'm the director for, and lots of questions and lots of interest because when we're talking about more and more and more representation, you think that like everybody knows at least one queer person, right? And you'd assume that like every mental health professional would know how to work with queer clients, but it's just not the case. We're still out there offering that education.
Yeah, and I think like it makes it kind of difficult because there is, I mean, someone like when we write these trainings together, it's kind of like we have a lot of advanced stuff in it. And so I remember because we gave it
All
like
right.
twice.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
like the first time we did it, I think we spent so much time on like the very kind of like, I don't want to call it like 101, but it's like, we spent a lot of time on like the terminology and like,
Hmm.
how to deal with X, Y, and Z. And, we really didn't get much into like the more like meat stuff of like, yes, this is the impact. This is why it's a big, big deal.
Right.
And then the second time, I think we moved into this is why it's a big, big deal. And we had questions about like, but what is this called? Or how, like, what do you mean by this? And
Right.
it's like, okay, thank you for asking the question. That's the most important thing you can do. And the person was in the room, which is important. And,
Hmm.
but yeah, I just thought about like, we don't, we don't know what cisgender is versus transgender.
Right.
Is this still
Yeah.
a thing? Is this
It's
still a
still
thing
a
we're
thing.
talking
It's
about?
still a thing for mental health professionals that they don't. About gender affirming care, or about the WPATH guidelines, or like all the things that we should be like making sure that we're staying up on to offer
Mm-hmm.
great care to our queer clients because we see more and more and more of them. I mean, I have probably a handful of therapists on my team who are working with transgender patients, and it's just really more common that people are seeking out care, not just at like you know a place who markets themselves as like, hey, we see transgender people, but like
Mm-hmm.
and your regular everyday practice, you're seeing trans people or queer people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because being queer isn't a presenting problem.
Right,
Like
right,
that's
right.
not it's not just society with the problem,
It
right?
is, yeah,
Most
yeah.
most of the time it's society with the
I
problem,
mean, that's
but
like what I say in our
yeah.
training, right? That like the reason why the suicide rate is higher with transgender kids is not because they're trans. It's because they don't get the
Mhm.
acceptance that they need when they're coming out to
Mhm.
their family or friends or community,
Yeah.
or they haven't found
Yeah.
a community.
I had the most amazing experience of like why like it matters to do this work.
Hmm.
I'm gonna get like freaking misty eyed. Ugh, it's awful. I had this person who uh has worked with my company in a way and then ended up interviewing, and then at the end of the interview she just stops for a moment and just expresses, she's like, and this was the first time I had ever met her, but I had known about her because she was volunteering with us at a time, and she talked about how the workplace was one of the most accepting and inclusive, and like people, like she shared like she's trans, and like I already happened to know that for no other reason than somebody told me,
Mm.
and not that that matters, but she's like, I go through the world and people don't know this, but then people who don't know it, they act very different than those who do. And she's like, I've never felt that here. I've always felt very, we have freaking, it's it's more than just like, oh, we allow pronouns in your email signatures, and but
Mm.
it's like actual, like, what do we teach about, like, we had a trans woman client come in to a residential facility, and they're like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, well, she's a woman, so she's gonna be in, like, the women's classes,
Right.
and the same way that we individualize everyone's care, we're gonna individualize her care, and,
Right.
but I just really appreciate that my team was like, "Okay, cool, like, just needed to make sure."
Right. And
Yeah, you know?
but had they met the person, and I'm going to do this in like quotes, and it was someone who was passing, right? So
Mhm,
they wouldn't even think twice about it because they would just make an
mhm,
assumption about somebody, not this is a trans woman, but just make an assumption that it's a female and would
mhm,
include them in all of the female stuff. But because like
mhm,
now I know, then somehow
mhm.
it's different. Like for me,
Yeah,
in the general public, wherever I go now, people assume me to be male, and I identify as non-binary, and I feel non-binary. I don't feel strongly either way. Like in my being, I feel more comfortable in my presentation looking like a male. That's how my body
mhm,
feels more comfortable. That's how I feel comfortable. But inside, I just feel like me, and I don't strongly feel male or female. So it throws me a lot when people, just so confidently are like sir, and like, and they just assume that I'm a guy, but that happens everywhere. And I think to where
mhm.
there's been people who's found out that I'm trans and are shocked. Um,
Hmm,
but like the thing is like it wouldn't be, so if I went to a place and they'd be like, oh, they know ahead of time. We give us transgender male coming, and like, how are we gonna, set up for this person, and what are we gonna do? Whereas, like, if they just encountered me, they would
mhm.
treat me that way anyway, because that's the assumption that they've made.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's always really interesting to me. Like, I had someone else ask a question of like, well, when we are pretty people in the system, it asks like, how do you identify? And so we can put it in the system. And everyone typically just says man or woman, right?
Mhm.
And a person specifically said, like, um, they specifically said trans woman. And my staff's like, well, what do we do with that? What do we put for the sex? Because we differentiate between sex and
Mhm.
gender. Um, and I explained like, well, this person is covered by insurance. We have to put in the gender
Mhm.
marker that will make sure the insurance goes through. But otherwise, why does it matter?
Mhm.
She's like, the fact that she identified herself as a trans woman is cool because it tells us a little bit more about like her as a person and her culturally. Like, she said it because it's clearly important for her for us to know. Great. But I'm like, otherwise, she'll be treated as the person she is, as opposed to like, yeah, for freaking insurance purposes,
Right.
we had to put down a different gender marker than describes her.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah, and it
yeah.
is, and it's unfortunate for people who are again non-binary, because that's something I run into with my medical records. I went to an ultrasound appointment earlier this year, and I list my medications, and I forgot to list testosterone, and my medical records say that I'm female, because when I changed my
Oh.
sex marker, I changed it to non-binary. And you don't get that
Hmm.
choice in most places that are a doctor's office. You have to put male, female, and I have to put like what is on my birth certificate. Those places ask. Which, by the way, in Ohio,
Hmm.
I can't change my birth certificate. So,
Yeah.
all my medical records say female. So I go into this ultrasound. I look like this, facial hair, all the stuff, and the tech is like looking at me, looking at her records, and she asks, "Are you on any other medications? Like, like maybe hormones?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, I take testosterone." I'm like, "I am so sorry." Because unless they have the gender marker there, which most of them don't, they just use biological sex, biological again in
Hmm.
quotes, because what is biology?
Quotes.
um, that then they might be expecting somebody who looks very different than how I look.
But I'm glad she didn't take that and just be like, "I clearly have the wrong medical chart, sir.
Right.
Let me," like
Right.
just kind of like prodding, like, Is there something else here?
Yeah,
I
like,
mean,
is there
like,
another
fine,
medication? Like, shit, I'm so sorry.
right?
Yeah.
Are you maybe on tea?
It is the one I forget the most too to write down. It's
Which is
so it is
hysterical.
pretty hysterical. But tomorrow I have a new
Which is
doctor's
awesome.
appointment. I get to see an ENT for my tinnitus, which I'm very very excited about. But
Hmm,
they did ask, so I filled out my paperwork already, and they did ask, what is my gender identity? And not just
love
like
that.
here's choices, please write it in what your gender identity
Mm-hmm.
is, which I much appreciate.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times I have to
Yeah,
say ahead of time, I want that they need to know. They're not gonna see what they think they're gonna see.
yeah. I kind of hate the other box. It's like
Mm.
just have
If
them
you just
all.
check
Have 10
other,
pages of
right?
them. Yeah, well, yeah, checking other, but then also it's
Mm.
like, what is other? Other
Well,
just means you don't see it as much. I don't know. I don't like
yeah.
that.
I mean, I like to be able to write it in because, like, I would write in like non-binary transmasculine, which is what I write in, and you
Yeah.
may not see that as a choice if someone tried to list it.
Well, yeah, so I'm like just leave an
Right.
open text for everybody. Give some
Right.
prompts of
Right.
like
Yes, you're right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
here's
Yes.
yeah,
Mm.
like here's what we generally mean. I think that that allowing there to be those open options is what's important. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
capitalism be damned, but
Right. It
there was
was
some cool pride gear this year.
yeah, it was pretty cool too. I traveled in Europe with one of my friends who we've been friends for like 30 years. And
Hmm.
everyone is like Mr. Griffith me and everyone is like sir, sir, sir. And I asked her like, because I've been, I started testosterone like 3 years ago or something. So it's not been a super long time. And I asked her
Hmm.
like, is it kind of weird for you to like have everyone be addressing me so confidently male? And she's like, a little bit. It's new, but
Hmm.
like, she does pretty good of like, not misgendering me by the gender that she knew me at for
Hmm.
forever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it is a challenge. And I think sometimes like it's just I don't know, addressing that, like you said, I think it's cultural humility. That's
Right.
the whole gist is to
Right.
own that.
Yeah.
But
But you have to love that you run into any therapist counselor and ask them, how are you in your humility and cultural humility and like great. I'm so good. Like, but then like when it
they're very humble about their humility.
there nobody, right? Nobody is. Everybody's like got it. And then like when it comes down to it, you're like, no, no, you're not at all.
Yeah. And there
you need some diversity training.
yes. And there's no judgment in saying that, like owning, no, I am ignorant
Right.
in these areas.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
willful ignorance. It's
Right.
yeah. But
Yeah. There is judgment for saying that you're
well,
great and it not being. But
yes.
no judgment and
Yes.
being like I need some training.
I don't even say I'm an expert in a lot of stuff that we train in because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like I will never be the knower of all
Right.
knowledge.
Right. And that's where
So,
we should be, right? Like always leaving
mhm.
room to learn. Because like there's
Yeah.
always going to be new stuff to learn anyway, whether you're an expert quotes or not.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I'm looking forward to in a couple weeks educating some
Yes.
professionals, addiction professionals, in working with queer clients.
Me
So,
too.
and one day we'll be able to say queer clients on a title and not be flagged. But until
Right,
then, we'll say
right.
LGBTQIA plus.
Well, I'm gonna end my in my dissertation, which I'm gonna speak at the SAGE conference, which is I would looked it up too because I always forget what it stands for, the Society for Sexual, Affectional, Intersex, and Gender Expansive Identities. So it's a group within the ACA. Um, so I'm going to speak at a
American
conference, and
Counseling Association.
my whole dissertation, I changed it from the alphabets to queer. So, and we do have the queer theory and research. So, hopefully,
True.
we should be able to say that more and more and more because, like, the research is out there to support that umbrella term. So yes, it's a lot easier than the alphabet.
It is. I like the Alphabet Mafia for sure, but like
Yeah.
my shirt says protect queer kids, and I had a person ask
Hmm.
me at work like, "Is that okay for you to wear?" I'm
No,
like,
right.
I'm like, first off, I'm the director. I'll wear what I want. I'm just kidding. But I'm like, yes,
Nice,
let's do
right?
a little
Yeah.
education
Yeah.
on like,
I'm the
if I would,
boss here.
right? Like, if I want to say it, I'll say it. But
Hmm.
no. Um, so anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm so excited for that and all the other exciting, fun things coming up for you this summer and this fall and all that jazz.
Yeah. Great.
Well, I'm sure we could talk probably for like at least 15 episodes about this.
Hmm.
But Pride Month is over, so I guess we should get off of our queer soapboxes, at least for today.
Right.
And I'm sure we will pick this up next week.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching, joining us. We much appreciate it and all the love. Just remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, retweet, re-X. We're not even on Twitter, so it doesn't matter. But thanks everybody for sharing their love and support. And yeah, we just really appreciate it. And so thanks for tuning in. And we will catch you next time on Let's Pick This Up next week. Bye, guys.